Peace, family, and welcome to another Drapetomaniac podcast. I'm Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, that is, the head Drapetomaniac in charge, and we're here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation. Several days ago, I wrote a comment on my beloved sister Anjali's channel, The Radical Sister. The comment was immediately removed by YouTube, as they tend to do with so many of my comments and the comments of our people who are just trying to bring their truth, or at the very least, another perspective to various conversations.
Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapetomaniac podcast on doayamedia.com. You are, right?
I'm so used to having my comments removed that now I just keep them so that I can email them to her so that she can see them. But this one, as innocuous as it is, was removed. So this time I've decided to share it on my platform. And even if you can't hear it on YouTube, you'll be able to find it on our doayamedia.com website at the Drapetomaniac podcast. Money and materialism is not naturally our square. It is the white man's square. And I wish with all my heart our people would wake up and recognize it and get off of it. I did a long exposition on it before, so I won't rehash all that. I will say, for anyone who hasn't heard it, when one is lacking in morality, talent, compassion, ingenuity, and I could literally go on, then they must find another means by which to give themselves an advantage. It had to be something that can be acquired, controlled, and something that they could lock others out of. Enter money and material wealth. What I'm about to say now might seem unrelated, but stay with me. I'll tie it in. Have you really ever thought about the disco era? Those of you who are old enough to remember it. And the styles of dance that were elevated during that time. Very stiff, very 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, very simplistic in its choreography. A lot of two steps and the spinning of women. So why did it explode onto the scene as it did? Because it was a dance that was rhythmic in a rudimentary way that the average white person could do. So for a time, they were able to take over the spotlight in the quote-unquote dance world and be the focus. It was something they could control, but it was not sustainable because it doesn't come naturally to them. It was forced, and it was something our people could not be locked out of. However, money and materialism is a different story. That is a square they could take over and not be pushed off of because they were able to entrench themselves within it due to the fact that since our people were looking so holistically and spiritually and character driven in pursuits and in ways of wholeness and oneness, think about the elders and their wisdom and how highly valued it once was, or the character of a person and how highly that was once valued. As our people was seeking those things, wisdom, character, and so on, white people, again, lacking those inward characteristics and with a lesser ability to achieve them, sought to control something outside of themselves over which they could gain control and then fool all into believing that it was the pinnacle of success and worth. After that, slowly but surely, the world, for the most part, bought into the lie. And now those inward characteristics and strengths in some cases are ridiculed while the pursuit of material gain is elevated, even if we know the achievement of such was accomplished through treachery. And to that end, many of our people have lost their way. You have old-time gangsters and quote-unquote crime families, heads of corporations and banks, pimp preachers, elected officials at the highest levels of government. They eat at the finest places, are featured on covers of magazines, have multiple mansions in various places, some worldwide. They ride around in chauffeur-driven limos, wear the most expensive clothes, don't have to wait in lines like regular people, are always given the white glove treatment. And even though the public may at times talk about them with anger or disgust, deep down, most people secretly, and some not so secretly, desire to be them. Who cares that they're responsible for untold misery that drives some average people into suicidal despair, and that they're liars and cheats, child molesters, some of them, Satanists, some of them, and murderers, directly and indirectly, by doing things like calling down drone strikes on innocent men, women, and children, or creating the weapons of war, and perpetuate unjust wars that murder soldiers and civilians alike. Or they build factories that create toxic wastes, or nuclear plants that kill oceans and everything in them, as they simultaneously rain down radiation from the skies, killing other millions. But who cares? Look at that suit. Look at that car. Look at that money. Look at that bling. Their wealth and material gains are the mask they wear, the cloak they use to cover their utter depravity. And like Dorian Gray, outwardly, they seem flawless aesthetically, but if you could see behind the veil to see the picture that actually represents who and what they really are, we would recoil in horror at the monstrosities they truly are and be repulsed by it. That is the trick bag. In my travels, I saw homes that were little more than structures where the people were using blankets as their front doors. And frankly, I often mention to my wife how beautiful that looked to me. I'm not exaggerating, because in dealing with the people, I was always greeted with big smiles and the faces of the people, and their demeanors were remarkably stress-free. They were living their lives with the food, air, and water they needed, and a roof over their heads, and enjoyed nature and friends and family. They are able to live in relative peace because they're not worried about their stuff being stolen for the most part. Here, people seldom smile, and the stress on their faces is always manifest. I've seen commercials that show people at work or on a vacation sitting on a beach, where they get a message on their phone alerting them that someone may be attempting to break into their home. Think about that for a moment. Do we really want to live a life where our junk is so attached to us, or we attached to it, that we can't even have peace in a virtual paradise, or even go to work without being constantly worried about someone breaking in to take our stuff? It was then that I learned one of the greatest lessons of my life. Our people, especially in America, are conditioned to look at newer, bigger, better, shinier, and to chase it, not taking into account the full cost of running on that treadmill. I wince when I hear one of our women castigated for having quote-unquote bad credit, or one of our men referred to as a broke-ass M-word. When we do these things, we don't realize that we are placing ourselves directly on the square of our oppressor and living by their rules and dictates. They figured out a long time ago how to make money and material wealth into power, instead of compassion being power, true intellect being power, morality being power, fairness being power, true love being power, justice being power, and love, honor, and deference to Yah being power. Lacking these things, they have perverted power into money and material wealth, as I said before. They use it not only to their advantage, but also compel our people that material wealth is the key to power and happiness, and how the worth of a man or a woman should be judged upon what they have or how much they make, while not letting people know, especially our people, that they've already created the system to continually keep the flow going upward to them and all but lock us out. Back in the day, before I came to my senses, I read the book The Millionaire Mind, and millionaires were very candid about this one thing. They are not a particularly smart, talented, or insightful lot. Their main ability is that of recognizing their own mediocrity and figuring out how to get people who are genuinely talented, intelligent, and or gifted to work to make money for them. Think about it. Think about some of the studio execs or talent agents or owners of sports teams, etc., who couldn't in a million years do the things that the people who are raking in millions and in some cases billions of dollars for them as they sit behind a desk while the real talent does all the work. And you get the picture. Yes, our people can achieve minor wins. Refer to my last podcast, Beware of Small Victories. But ultimately, it's just to keep us in the game and playing by their rules and regulations with no hope of ever truly winning. One of the most significant and powerful steps our people can take to free ourselves of this system is to comprehend that yes, we do need money to survive, but I would much rather have a hoopty that's mine and paid for and gets me from point A to B reliably, even with a couple dents and maybe some rust, than to have a brand new Bentley that I'm paying for every month and have to hide down the street in the middle of the night so that the repo man can't take it because I missed a couple payments, or a modest home that's mine rather than a McMansion that I can't sleep in peace at night in because I'm so worried about going to work the next day to a job that I hate so that I can keep paying for it. Or even if I love my job, being unable to sleep because of worrying that the job might end one day and I'll be in the same boat. That is not freedom. It is enslavement. Our people are far more than the material junk that we pile up. As long as we chase after money and or material wealth or judge each other based upon it, then as I said at the start, we are on the white man's square, playing his game and severely undervaluing ourselves and our true worth and place in this world. It's time for our people to break the bonds that hold us captive to this system, and changing one's view of material wealth and how it defines one as a person is an excellent first step. Thank you for listening to this edition of the Drapetomaniac Podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, that is, the head Drapetomaniac in charge, wishing you peace and blessings, safety, security, and sanity through separation. And until we meet again this same time next week, I'll see you on the run.
And thank you again for listening to the Drapetomaniac Podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.